Well, good afternoon. Can you believe you guys have almost finished 4 weeks of our first ever BCSD Summer Virtual Learning Academy program? Yay! Woo! You guys are awesome. I wish I could just hug you all and just come in here and have a big food celebration and do all the things that we're not supposed to do and we can't do, but that's what I feel like doing. But I am so proud of you guys all. You have been so amazing. And I was just going through all of my notes again today and sharing out everything with Christine and the team. And I have learned so much. I know you have learned so much. And we're ready to jump in when we're allowed to jump in August and get going. And we're going to continue to learn together. But I think there will never, ever be this great team that started this off together. So when it is safe for us to come and get together, we are going to have a party down here. We're going to schedule something and I have all your names and we are going to come down here and we are going to have a party together. All right. So I don't know when that will be, but it will happen. And we're not going to forget all the hard work that all of you did during this summer. And it's stressful learning all of that, but you have made it fun and you've made it a great learning for our students. So I wanted to, again, thank our two specialists who have been running our cohort groups that have been helping so much. And I want to thank Brooke Webb. I see her there. This is like the Brady Bunch watching this, right? So you got to like wave. And then Andrew up in the corner there, he has been doing such an amazing job and getting everything set and working with this. We couldn't do it without it. They've been like our principals of the summer learning that we usually have when we're physically on campus. So they have been a great help to me. I want to thank STEM Scopes for without this, none of this would be possible. And I have Sabrina Hernandez here online and Brooks, can you wave? Dartery, they are, and I don't know if anybody else is online from STEM Scopes because I can't see all of it, but they have been just amazing from day one when we called them and said, can you do this for us? And everything was always yes, 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 when we didn't even know how we were going to do it, but jumped right in and putting together the curriculum. And so I can't thank them enough. Because it wouldn't have probably even been possible. We did not even have the manpower and the time in the short frame that we had to even do this without STEM Scope. So I just want to thank them again for everything. And we use STEM Scopes in our ELP program, and it has always been such a fabulous and engaging curriculum for students. So we look forward to that. Is there anyone else in STEM Scopes here, Brooks or Sabrina, that I'm missing? Is they had a whole team behind them that were putting together by grade level and working on this. So
we did. So we want to also thank Cassie. Will be joining us in a few minutes. Mendez, Kristen, Maida, Stephanie Shield, Mackenzie Brook, and Nick Martin were all part of the team that collaborated to pull together just a shell of what we provided for the district, and you teachers made it come to life. You made it work. You are the professionals, and it's because of you that your children were as successful as they were over the summer with all of the challenges. So we can't say thank you enough. We can't wait to hear your feedback and how we can improve on our end moving forward, but also just thrilled with all of the feedback that we've had through our office hours support time and then just in conversations with our trainers. So thank you again for trusting us and allowing us to be a part of your summer session. So excited to see the kids.
Yep, absolutely. And it was such a great team. I want to thank C&I and all of their specialists and our IT department and everybody who we were just emailing back and forth as fast as we could to get things fixed and to troubleshoot things and to get information. So it really is a big team approach to getting these things off and about, and all of our ELP staff and clerks who worked really hard giving out devices and hotspots and everything to make this come to life. So I want to thank all of them. I hope you all got the certificate that you can give to your students for the end of completion. We also have McDonald's certificates. We called everywhere, and I guess because of the economy, everyone's a little bit tighter about giving out a lot of things for us for incentives, but we were able to get like 100 Happy Meals. So let me know if you have like perfect attendance students or you want to have a raffle. We have those, and we can call them and either mail those to them or have them come by and pick those up. So we have those to offer. And then I know Shirley, she just left a few minutes ago to pick up. We got a last minute call from Rusty's Pizza and we have like 30 certificates for pizzas as well. So we can use those too. So please shoot it out to me if you have a raffle going on, you need some certificates, or even just we want to mail things to students for perfect attendance. We're here to help support with those as well. So we really tried to get like 600, but everybody would laugh at us when we called for that. So I guess it's just the time right now, but I want to make sure that you all have the certificates to give to the students for completion. And then again, if your parents are asking, please let them know that they keep the devices, keep the hotspots. They're going to need those. So we don't want them to return those. But definitely if they want to return the packets, we will make sure those get to their school sites and they get credit for those, that we will take those. So they can do that on Friday if they would like to come by and drop off the packets here at the district office. So we are here and available. They just call and we'll go down and we get them at the same place we gave out devices, and we will get those back to the school sites. So with that, today we really wanted to, we have a little agenda that I think Andrew and Brooke put together with going through with celebrations, what's working, needs for the beginning of the school year, feedback and tips. And Tabitha is here online, and Rachel. They're going to collaborate to put this out with your words, that these will be so successful. Hi, Tabitha. There's Tabitha, and I see Rachel. And they're going to be able to get this back out because we want you to share with teachers celebrations, what worked. We've been doing this for like the last 4 weeks talking about it, but as a culmination, we really want to get this out and be able to share all that you've learned with our teachers coming in. So with that said, Brooke and Andrew, I'm going to turn it over to you so you can help lead the teams in the discussion. And this is being recorded. Is everyone okay with that? So, okay. I think, Andrew, we can't. I don't think we can hear Andrew.
That's okay. Let's go ahead and start with celebrations. My favorite part. We're in week 4 now. So let's hear it. What do you guys have? What's been working? What's, I think over the last 3.5 weeks, you guys have come up with amazing ideas. So Nicole, would you go ahead and share?
So our class was really struggling with the vocabulary in STEM scopes. So to kind of work with that, we did an extension and we taught them Google Sites, and they created Google Sites for their vocabulary and their posters and their biosphere pizzas. And basically we created one class site and linked all of their sites to it as an extension activity for them.
Awesome.
And Tabitha, did you need them to say like their name and school or anything like that before they share things, or?
That would be great if you could hear me. If you could just say your first and last name and the school that you teach at, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Nicole Negron and Sierra Middle School.
Thank you, Nicole.
Who wants to share next? What about incentives? Anybody finding anything working well for kids? Are they, okay, Veronica?
My name is Veronica De Leon, 7th grade math science at Sierra Middle School. And for one of my incentives was I actually had my students on the last day of the week on Thursdays create a flip grid. And on the flip grid, they were able to videotape themselves and give us a snippet, and I would give them the topic of whatever it is we were learning for the week, and they would have to create in a flip grid. And then they would get their name on a wheel. a wheel of names. So on Thursdays, I would spin the wheel, and then whoever name it landed on, that's who I would send them a gift card, a little $5 gift card from either McDonald's or Starbucks. They got to choose, and they would get it in the mail. So the more the flip grid they turned in, the math assignments that were on the classroom, their journals that I had put into their Google Classroom, anything they completed, they got an extra name on the wheel.
I love that. Veronica shared, I think last week too, that she had found some stickers. Like you can get them by the hundreds on Amazon, the little Chromebook, laptop, hydro flask, water bottle stickers, and that she was including those too. And I just bet that the kids absolutely love getting those little, envelopes filled with fun stuff.
Right. And I usually have a treasure box in my classroom, and it has random things. Like I had these little slap bracelets. It's just a little slap bracelet that fits in an envelope I could send to them. And then STEM Scopes actually sent me some stickers that I could actually send to them. So these are going to go in their last envelope that's going home to them with their certificate.
Awesome. I love that. Okay, Jamie?
Mine's not an aha, but I have the littles, Jamie Cook from Voorhees. First graders work just to be able to pick stuff. So if they were good listeners and they were in learning position, eyes on the speaker, and they were demonstrating good work behavior, I let them pick either the brain break activity or the Kids Hub drawing. So they were working hard just to be able to pick the activity or the book we were going to read. So I usually have treasure boxes as well. So now I'm just trying to find stuff I could use to motivate them through choices. Done.
Me too. I had the same thing as Jamie. My students are just third graders. And we actually, because they have a new clever login with NitroType, my students, we were able to race each other on NitroType typing, where we could all get in the race together, and then our little names would pop up, and then we could all race each other and on the typing. So they're better typers than me, most of them. But it was fun. They loved it.
I did share your ideas, which I thought were really good, with our admin team about having the principals put in their budgets, postage, money for postage, and incentives that the students were enjoying so much during the summer, getting mail from you, positive postcards, little incentives and things like that. And receiving mail seemed to be a highlight from everyone. So I did share that out from our team.
I'm curious if anybody has incorporated, I know as a classroom teacher, we think of things that don't cost money, like being the line leader or lunch with the teacher. Has anybody come up with things like that in this virtual landscape that we are in right now? Like, has anybody done like lunch with the teacher as an incentive, or I don't know, moderator, or any kind of fun thing like that? I know you guys have been doing like dress up days and stuff. That's fun.
I got this idea from somebody else that's here, but we did Star of the Day. So every day I took their picture off the Aries, one student put it up, and then they got to answer some questions. That actually came from another teacher. I don't know if she's on here now, but I really liked that. The kids really enjoyed every day. And I noticed that they would log in on time because they wanted to know who the Star of the Day was. So I was doing it in the beginning at first, but then they were logging out early. So I moved it to the end of the day so they all stayed on, and then we did it at the end.
Nice.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me now? Oh, okay. I'm back.
There you go.
I'm sorry.
We got you.
All right. I was just saying, I appreciate all your guys' feedback working with you this summer. It was a pleasure. I learned so much just from you guys and all your questions that you asked me. All this, and I loved all the STEM Scopes material. It was great.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the other things really quick that I did was I tried to create a lot of hands-on do-it-yourself activities. So like one of our activities, they were talking about invasive species. So I had them pick an animal or pick a species, and we made salt dough. So like the salt dough, you use just salt and flour and water. So it was something they could easily find at home, like a household item, that they were able to make the salt dough, and then they got to make their own little species and paint it and color it and do things there at their home. So I try to do some hands-on activities where they're able to grab supplies that they already had at home, like the vinegar and baking soda, because we watched, you know, the reactions and things like that.
I did the same thing that Veronica did, but with my little ones. We did a lesson on how plants grow, because in the beginning I took an inventory of things that they're interested in, and I had lots of kids interested in plants. So we just got a sandwich bag, a paper towel, wet it, put a couple little beans in it, and every day we did a show and tell of how much their beans have grown. And they absolutely loved sharing that. There were a few kids that didn't have any beans at home, but they had plants in their backyard, and their parents would take pictures and then send it to me on Remind, and then I'd put it up in my Google Slide lesson for the day. So when we were all done sharing, then I would share those kids potato plants or jalapeno plants or tomato, whatever they had. And they were super proud to see how much they'd grown in the 3 weeks, because we started the second week, in the 3 weeks that we had started growing them. So that was really cool.
What did that interest inventory look like? Was it like a Google form, or did you just ask
I just asked them. I just asked them, what are things that you've done this summer to keep you or these last 4 months to keep you busy? What are you and your family doing? And a lot of them said that they had started planting gardens. And so I have plants too, and so I would bring my little plants and show them. And I think once a few students said, I have a garden. Everyone started with a garden. You know, the boys like dinosaurs, the girls like unicorns. So I found something that I can incorporate a little bit of science and show and tell, and the families got involved. It was really cool. It's something that I plan on starting with my own class, so that we could see the growth and just kind of compare it to how we're growing. And some of the beans didn't grow, and sometimes that happens, but we can plant more and we can keep trying. So, you know, show them a little bit of grit as well.
I think, is it White Forest Nursery was giving seeds away for kids. I think they had them like right there at the entry too. You could just pick up a packet. I wonder if they would be interested in donating seeds, like even to be able to mail kids if they couldn't go. So
yeah, that would be really cool. I'll definitely look into that. Thank you.
So I'll share one thing that that I found successful, and I'm sorry I cannot get my video to work without the snap filters, so I'll just spare you that. But one thing that I found successful with 7th graders, they're not necessarily super easy to motivate via Zoom, but one of my class norms is that they not interrupt, and so I've tried to teach them to write any questions in the chat. And so I will offer somebody to be the chat monitor, and they really do enjoy that. They feel important, they enjoy it. And sometimes I say, if you can answer the question, just answer it. Otherwise, I'll ask you, you know, and I try to take like every 5 or 10 minutes, or, you know, are there any questions that I need to address? And they like that.
And the chat monitor would then respond to you with?
The chat monitor responds, yes.
Awesome. Okay. Anybody else?
Anybody else?
Sure. Hi, I'm Vicky, McKinley, 1st grade. So I know we're talking about all the celebrations, and this is all still so strange to me. I'm really glad that I got these 4 weeks to practice. My biggest concern was the rapport with my students, you know, like I didn't know how love was going to translate virtually. And I am very pleased to say that there was a back and forth of getting to know each other. I'm kind of shocked by it, honestly. I just didn't know if it was going to happen. And in these 4 weeks, I was able to build that person-to-person rapport with my students. I really didn't know if it would happen. And so, I mean, that gives me hope. I mean, I'm on board, you know what I mean? I can't wait to get back. This kind of made my apple-shaped heart beat a little bit, you know, it was great. Anyway, I just want people to know that it's doable, that somehow the love did translate virtually. And so anyway, that's my biggest takeaway from this. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicky.
I just got a little bit of chills because I think that that's such a valuable thing to share. I think that's something that's on all of our hearts, you know, is how do we make those connections? I can't even imagine a first day of school without like hugging the kids as they walk onto campus and visiting school sites, and you know, and so I think that thank you so much for sharing that you feel confident that love does transcend the screen. Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay. One thing that I wanted to share is an idea I also got from someone else. I think it was Anita who shared it. And so I tried it because my students, third grade, they were always wanting to share things. And as they pick up points on Dojo, Class Dojo, I let them know that you'll be able to share at the end of class each day. And it motivated them to participate more. And at the end of the day, just seeing what they had to share it was amazing. Like I saw chicken coops. I saw people who were neighbors. They went out and waved to each other, like in the same class, but they lived right next to each other. Someone caught a bird that morning and he wanted to share so bad. So he was very involved throughout the day. So just being able to share what they have or some story they have was very motivating.
Yeah, I'd like to share just a quick little story. When I talk about the bean plants, one day I had a brother and his little sister would always join in with the bean plants. She did it too. And I noticed when he came to share it, he didn't bring his bean plants and he just kind of sat there. And I said, babe, where's your bean plants? And he just shook his head and I unmuted him. He says, I drowned them. I gave them too much water. And I said, oh, that's okay. You can do it again tomorrow and share. And he just put his head down. And as I was looking at the other kids' bean plants, his mom came up and was like wiping his tears. And I could tell he was really upset. So afterwards, I messaged mom and I said, I can tell he was really upset, but don't worry. You know, he can plant again and share tomorrow. And she said, oh, I don't want to get emotional, but she says, it's not just that, but his dad was diagnosed with COVID. So he's really upset. And I could tell through the screen he was not himself. I could see that. I already knew his personality. I knew what kind of energy he brought every day. And she says, and you know, he just loves his dad so much, and dad's in the room self-quarantining, and he can't hug him and he can't love on him. He can't have dinner with him. And they have a whole farm. So they have goats and a little miniature horse and chickens, and they do this whole thing every evening, and he can't do that with dad. And he's really upset. And that his bean died, he's putting that with my dad could die. And he's a little boy, he's 7 years old. And it made me stop and think, our kids are going through this and they're going to continue to go through it. And so we have to be mindful that we're teachers, but we're more than teachers. And the academics doesn't have to be the front of the line. We have to keep showing them our love and our compassion. And she says that her mom's going to bring groceries. They ran out of beans. And I just said, can I bring you some beans? And she said, yeah, sure. And so I packed up the beans in the bags and I put on my mask and I brought my daughter and we went to their house and I messaged her that I was outside and they came out with their mask. And he was so excited because he has little eyes through his mask. And I gave it to mom and she starts crying and thanking me. But it was more of, I just wanted to hold them and hug them and tell them it was going to be okay. And I couldn't do it. And it was so frustrating. But I took away knowing that I hope that we just all remember that they need more than just a teacher. We have to like give them that safe spot and let them know that it's okay. And if we have to drive beans to their house, let's drive the beans. I mean, it was just like the smallest thing. And he came the next day, his old self, ready to learn, big smile. Dad has his taste, his sense of taste back. He's on the mend. So, you know, you guys just keep up the good work because we're doing it. So good job.
One tip that was in the chat that I thought was pretty doable and I wouldn't have thought of was looking into the camera when your kiddos are speaking, because you're showing them, you're seeing them instead of maybe the screen. I know we can't always do that, but I thought that was kind of a neat little tip.
Anybody else like to share?
Hi, my name's Brianna Ramirez. I'm over at Owens Primary. I can't get my camera to come up either. I don't know if it's because it's my phone, but I had a co-teacher and we had second graders and we did a scientist of the week. So throughout the week, we would point out things the kids would do that was making them a good scientist, whether it was like listening or asking good questions or responding to their classmates appropriately. And so her and I just alternated week to week and dropped something off, whether it was like a slime kit or I had like these jumbo Rice Krispie treats or like sharpened pencils. Like a mom was so grateful that I sharpened pencils and brought them over. But I know someone said or asked, like, did anyone do like lunch with your kids or whatever? I always activated and deactivated the link, but I would leave it up during lunch. And there was a little guy who loved talking about his dog. And I told him like, if he could wait until like lunchtime at the end of lunch that he could show me his dog. So I would log back in and he'd want to ask my dog questions. So, I mean, we spent like 5 minutes, but it was almost every single day. And his mom's like, he is dying to ask your dog questions. And it was just silly stuff. But even as far as like building relationships that way, because the same thing, I was like, how do I build relationships with people on the other side of the screen? But it was just hearing their answers to like our morning SEL lesson or whatever, and like taking even just those 5 minutes before school started, at lunch, or at the end of the day, they like loved it and thrived because they wanted to just have that extra time, I guess, with their teacher.
So did the dog respond or did you respond for the dog? Like, I want to know, like, how did the
I would
question session
respond for my dog, and he's like, well, Cupcake and I want to know if your dog likes to eat treats. And I'm like, oh yeah. And he's like, well, can your dog eat a treat right now? So I'd be like, okay. So I just like give my dog a treat, and he just thought it was the best thing ever. So I think it's just cool because one, like you're at home and you can't like stop your pets from barking or walking by, but like they see that and they're like, oh, you have a dog? Can we see the dog? And so like the kids would get excited about that. And they're like, oh, teacher, we see your dog, or what's your dog?
Anybody else have pet stories or how they incorporated like pets into the mix?
Well, for me, for the most part, I try to keep my dogs out of, or my cat and my dogs from being in the room. But I remember there was one time that I stepped out to go grab a glass of water, and when I came back, the kids were arguing. They're like, yeah, ghosts are real. No, ghosts aren't real. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, well, we saw your door move and no one walked in, so we think there's a ghost. So I unplugged my laptop and I showed them underneath the bed. I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's my cat Waffles. So I'm like, there's the ghost. And they thought it was really funny. So then they know now, like if they saw the door move and no one came in, they're like, I think your pet just walked in. That was a little funny.
You all have great animal names, just saying.
Anybody else would like to share anything that with the group?
We're all together now too, so I mean, I know specifically I work with 3rd, 4th, 7th, and 8th, but because we're together now, I mean, if there's anything that you want to share that maybe you feel like, well, I've already shared this, there are new ears here today, so if there's anything that you think would be for the good of the all before we move on.
Something that I did with my students at the end of the day, every day, and it came from something that you, Brooke, that you shared with us on those slides with the little memory game. So after we did that the first week, they just loved it. So then I created more for the following weeks, and I would do like little math ones. So one of them would be like addition. They'd have like 3 + 5. So then they had to figure out what the answer was and try to uncover that one. So that was like an end of day thing. And they knew that they would not want to log off until we were done going through that. And so I would call on a student and they would share something that they learned about or something that they enjoyed that day. And then they would get to choose 2 numbers to try to match them. And some of them would pull out their notebook and write down what was underneath each number to remember for the next day.
Being resourceful with memory. I like it. And I love that you turned that into something more academic. That's great.
Talking about resourceful work, I was able to coordinate, arrange 2 guest speakers for my class. For nutrition, my sister's a doctor in dietetic. So she came and showed us how to read the labels and nutritional labels. And that was really cool. The kids really loved it. And today I had a guest speaker, and she's a pastor from Minnesota. And she came and talked to us about, we talk about Morse code and Braille and all that. And she was able to make a Braille for my class and talk about her stories, her life stories and things like that. I really enjoy this summer, this year's summer school. I didn't know I was going to be able to handle this because this is all new to me. But I learned a lot. I learned a great deal. I feel I'm ready for the fall. I was able to talk to people. I have a group of people that I could talk to on the phone, and we pretty much talk to each other on a daily basis. I felt really grateful that I had the opportunity this summer to work on this. So
I noticed you had 100% in your class a lot of times. Can you give us some tips on some things that you did for that?
Yes. Number one is, I think it's very important to be consistent. If I want them to be perfect, to have perfect attendance, I feel like I need to set an example for them that will do the same thing. We decided to have a McDonald's Happy Meal delivered, but that is too hard to deliver for them, only a $5 meal. So I decided to send them a gift card for a Happy Meal. So if they can all show up one last time tomorrow, everybody will get a gift card from me. The first 3 days was the most crucial day for me because I set up the tone, I set up the expectation for the parents and for the kids that I expect them to be there with me every day because I would do the same thing for them. I would provide them with a different way to connect with me, to talk to me, to call me. I give them a cell phone. Some parents like to text. Some parents like to call. Some parents like to use a Google Class what's it, Class Dojos, email. So different channels of communication. I would, utilize that. So when the kids are off, I would call them immediately or text them immediately. So you need to get back on, and I would make them really feel guilty. I said, "Hey guys, we're waiting for you. We need to get you on the whole class waiting. Hurry up, And they say, okay. So that's what I do is I constantly get them on back on the Google Classroom. I find it very successful this summer for the first time ever on virtually, and I'm really grateful. I didn't know I was going to be able to do this, to be honest with you. And I applied for this job at last minute because I was supposed to be on vacation this summer. I don't usually, here in the summer. And I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to be here anyway. And maybe I'll just try this out to see how that goes for the fall. And I'm just really happy that I was able to do this. So.
Great job.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Did anybody have any comments about the STEM scope supports and what you liked about that?
I do feel that it's very rigorous curriculum for our students. My 3rd graders coming in as a 2nd grader. So that was rigorous. So I had to go to different places to get resources, to kind of break it down to make it easier for them. To do so.
Sandra, did you have a question or a comment? Sorry.
Know that I appreciated, I believe it was Stephanie, and the other name escapes me, but they helped me out on a Sunday when I couldn't access anything. I think Andrew, you ended up being involved, but they got it back together even on the weekends. I really appreciate their help and support.
Yes.
That would have been Stephanie and Kristen. So yeah, they're rock stars. They don't sleep because they feel your pain, and they know that with anything new, there's always going to be questions and supports that you needed. And, you know, I just kind of listening to everybody and hearing Nicole talking about the vocabulary, trying to make that more accessible for students. We're always learning through this process. So helping you and hearing from you has helped to make our program better. And I've only been working with the company about 6 months, and I've already seen a phenomenal amount of change happen in that 6 months to help support educators. So we continue to do so, which is why I asked, what were the things that you really loved, but also what were the pain points? Because hearing from teachers is how we make our work better. And that's what we strive to do, is make sure that it becomes an experience for you that's supportive, and that, again, you have fun with, that it brings you to life and gets you motivated and excited about teaching science. You know, not everybody's a science teacher, and if you're not, sometimes it's harder to do. So again, glad to hear from a few of you that this was something that encouraged you and engaged you and your students. I think that's the first step, getting you on board and getting you excited about what you're delivering, and then bringing it to life with your own personal touches. So we can't thank you enough for doing that. And again, I put my email in the chat if you want to share privately with me as well. I would just love to hear honest feedback. These are the pain points we had. This is how we'd love for you to change moving forward. And then, you know, if there was something that really worked well, share that with us, because we're all coming from the classroom and we miss it dearly and love to live through your experiences.
Is there anybody else that would like to share out?
I will really quick. Yeah, they were very helpful. I mean, at the end of any lesson, if there was something that I had a question about, I would hop on at 1 o'clock and be like, hey, I saw this picture on there and I wasn't too sure, and how clear, you know, how was I going to use this in the lesson? And they were really quick to show me how to use it in the lesson, how it was used in the lesson, and also all the additional things when you go into the STEM scopes, how you can actually, there's so much more in there than just what they gave us in that little binder, little handout that they gave us. There's so much more in that STEM scopes curriculum that you could also use. So it was awesome.
Yeah, there was a lot of content that I loved going through it and looking at all the different learning experiences for the kids. Ms. Fletchy, who were your guest speakers again?
My sister, who is a doctor in dietetic. We learned for the first unit, we learned about traits, you know, like one of the lessons was on nutritional labels. And then this unit 4 is on information technologies. It talks about how we communicate, different ways of communication. So one of my guest speakers was, she's a pastor. She in Minnesota. She did a Braille for us. You know, this one way to communicate for her is using Braille. So the kids did not know what Braille is, so we need to use a lot of pictures to show them. Yeah, she's really awesome, and she talks about like how she applied for 100 jobs and did not even get one because she's, you know, it's harder for her to you know, it's hard for her to get a job, find a job. And she said what she talked about was, you know, like how we tie into our SEL, talk about how to be respectful, how to make a difference for, you know, in the world basically, and things like that. And that was really wonderful. It's just, she spent a lot of hours, you know, preparing the presentation for us. And yeah, the kids really like her, and she even made a comment that, you know, your kids are really wonderful. They talk about kindness and respectful and the kind of things. So yeah, this is really cool.
Samantha was talking about in a meeting about the Go Guardian and what she used to with her students there. And I think in Brooke's meeting too, I read in the notes too, that somebody was using Go Guardian. Would anybody like to share about their Go Guardian experience this summer?
I used it every day with my students. It made it a lot easier to see what was on their screen. I did notice that if they weren't on a district Chromebook, it was harder for me to be able to see if they were logged in or not. But especially after we came back after lunch and I was pulling back my groups, some students would forget to log in. So I would just be able to go ahead and push over the website to them and close whatever tabs they didn't need. So if they were struggling with something, I could see what was on their screen and kind of help them navigate through it.
I just added the Go Guardian today with the help of another teacher. I called her up at lunchtime. I said, can you please show me how to do it? So I was able to do it actually today, the first time ever. So another thing about summer school, what I found it really helpful was I could only do one thing at a time. When I feel really good at one thing, then I feel like I'm very comfortable going to try another thing. So I can just go slow to go fast. So.
I used Go Guardian every day with my kids, and I tried not to make it a thing at the beginning. Like, I don't know, I didn't want them to feel invaded, I guess, a little bit. But then when I realized that they weren't doing what I was asking them to do, I put it on, and then they were like, oh, wait, she can watch us even though we're not at school. They realized that it still works the same way. And so I didn't have nearly as much off-task behavior as the first couple days. And then I had one kid that was, he was supposed to be in a small group, and I go and look, and he didn't come back. And so I went and looked on Go Guardian and what he was doing. And unfortunately, he was watching Netflix on his computer. So I just simply sent him a message and locked his computer for a moment until he realized, oh, I'm supposed to be in class right now. And he came back right away. So it was really, really helpful.
Thank you.
I'd like to share something about Go Guardian.
Okay.
My name's Natalie Guerrero. In addition to monitoring or redirecting behavior on Go Guardian, I also loved it when I was in a small group. So by like week 3 last week, they could log out of Zoom if it wasn't their time to meet with me. But if they had a question, they could chat with me using Go Guardian. But I set expectations that the chat, like, you know, any chat is just strictly for questions or concerns that you have. But it was really nice to see in another screen, if they had a question, they needed some redirecting, I could message them there without interrupting my small group. So that was really nice. I also use Go Guardian. So rather than students sharing their screen all the time to show me their work, I was able to see their screen and see them typing in real time, multiple students typing in real time, so I can direct them, you know, through the computer. Oh, I noticed you typed this. I think you need to go back and check. So it was really nice to have that to redirect them and to give them that feedback almost instantaneously with their work too. How could you see what they were typing on Go Guardian? You can see their screen and it shows in real time what, like if they're in a Google Doc, that they're typing a sentence out. So I could see what they're typing. It might be a little lagged, but yeah, I could see what they're like inserting, or I can guide them. Like for example, I had to show a student how to make a copy of something. So I was looking at their screen on Go Guardian because I had several other students I was working with, and it was just easier for me to see where they were clicking or whatnot.
Natalie, can you also share with everyone some of the nonverbal things you were doing with popsicle sticks that you mentioned?
Oh, sure. Okay, so I was tired of saying mute or I can't hear you, unmute. So I just made a gesture with my hands. I put my hands over my mouth if I needed them to mute, or I opened my hands like I'm shouting if I needed them to unmute without saying anything. And they finally got the hang of that. Whenever on the camera, I would put my hand over my mouth, they would go and mute themselves. Open my hand, they would unmute. But if they, and I also thought for the fall, I'll probably create some sort of another visual, maybe like a popsicle stick with a mute sign on one and then unmute on the other. So I could just pick them up and show it on the screen. That might help too. But I definitely think those nonverbal cues were very helpful, especially using technology. And like hands too, I mentioned this with the group last week. So I noticed their hands, you can see their faces, you know, but you can't necessarily see what their hands are doing at all times. So I do like a hand check. So I'm like, hand check, and then they clap 3 times and show me their hands. Or I took, somebody brought up the idea of the snap. I snapped and had them snap. I said, oh, snap, and then they snap in the camera so I can see their hands, and then they can fold them or put them on their desk. So just kind of a way to get them to focus. So I had them playing with slime or other things, just like they would in class. And
thank you.
Caitlin, can you tell us how you use the chat feature? I know you mentioned that right now.
Yeah, in Go Guardian, if you open up the student's screen, there's like a little message tab, and it's usually always turned off, so you have to turn it on. And then you could type anything to them, and then it'll pop up on the screen kind of like a text message in the left corner. And then they can open it, and it brings up kind of like a little chat feature to where you and that student can just talk straight through the screen. So it's not through Zoom chat, it's just through the Go Guardian chat.
You can also go to the whole class chat and read for groups. Next group or
Elizabeth, would you mind sharing in the chat?
That's something that happened often with my students. Do you know what causes that? I mean, for future, I guess.
Not enough like bandwidth to support like the video. So if they turn the video off while they're sharing, it might help their voice to come through and not be so pixelated, if that's what you're asking. Is that what you're asking? Yeah. Okay.
So when they're sharing, we should ask them to turn their video off?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, it's because their bandwidth does not support like all the video, the streaming all at once. So if they turn their video off, it should free some of that up and help the sound come through better. I don't know if there's somebody who can maybe help with explaining that a little better.
You know, though, if the kiddos are going to be required to show their video when they're logged in, like, are they going to just be able to have a black screen? Because I told my kids that I had to see them to make sure that they were actually, I wanted to know that they were there and I wasn't just talking to nothing. So
right. I mean, just when they're sharing. So like right now, if I just stop my video, you can still hear me, but the recording of the video goes away. So I think that while they're sharing.
The only problem with that though, go ahead, sorry.
No, please go ahead.
The only problem that we found with that, because I was co-teaching with another teacher, we only had one student in Google Meet, everything was fine. And then when we transferred over to Zoom to kind of get them used to this format and this system, his video could not be on and he was never able to share and he got really frustrated. And it wasn't him turning his camera on and talking. Even when his camera was off, his talking was very pixelated, and it was a huge issue that we ended up just having to go back to Meet because his process wouldn't work, and he was using the district hotspot.
I know with my computer with Zoom, I had to go in and lower the resolution of my camera and make it run at a slower speed, or it wouldn't work at all. It would say camera failed to start, camera failed. So my husband actually fixed it for me. He had to go in and open the camera and like set the resolution really low for it to be able to run both. And it does fine in Google Meets. It only had that issue on Zoom.
yeah, I couldn't always just use my Wi-Fi. My husband had directly plug whatever the little thing is from the thing to my computer. I don't know what it's called. I just, he's my IT guy. But, with the kids, when they had those issues and they had hotspots, 2 moms actually increased their their connection, and they still had the computer voices. That's what we call them. So I just messaged, you have computer voice. Thank you, Veronica. I didn't know what it was called. So I myself was even having issues where they would message me, you sound like a computer. So
yeah, I think a help doc, if we don't already have one, would be beneficial, like a troubleshooting one for those things, like try lowering the resolution here, and just providing some PD on what that looks like directly to staff. I think that's great. So the more ideas you guys have in terms of troubleshooting and finding a solution that works for you, because we're all operating on different devices, different internet service providers. And so I think, like we've kind of learned here, is that what works for one person might not work for another. So the more troubleshooting things that we can come up with, and then provide PD on that, like if you haven't tried this, try that, or if you're in Google Meet, try this, but if you're in Google Zoom, then if you're in Zoom, then this. So great ideas and suggestions. I think that's because we all know when our tech doesn't work, it's so frustrating, and these poor babies anyways, and so yeah, tips to reduce robot voice would be great. Okay. I think we're probably ready to transition into just suggestions. We're kind of in that transition place now, just with troubleshooting. So I know some of the things we've talked about, like reoccurring, have been like the need for headphones and probably mice for littles that are struggling with the trackpad. Anything else that's come up that's a need moving forward?
Writing surface
Like whiteboards and
for
markers?
the students. Yeah. Okay.
Well, hey, I think this is the quietest it's been so far. Week 4, 3.5 weeks, right?
Yeah.
I know we talked a little bit too about even a seating, like a designated sitting area, that some kids didn't even have, like, a chair to sit at, that some were on their beds. Has that resolved itself? I mean, maybe just even through establishing more norms in terms of, like, it's not okay to lie down on your bed while you're at school, and those kinds of things, and getting dressed in the morning for school and brushing your teeth in the morning for school, that we're establishing more of that routine, that this is school and not just learning at home.
I told my kiddos that if their parents still wanted to go get them a backpack, because one of them did go buy a backpack, and someone said, what's he gonna need that for? And I said, you can still put in all your schoolwork. You could have it there because you're gonna get things from your school, from your teacher, your parents are gonna give you things. Put everything there so your little brother and sister don't scribble on it, the dog doesn't attack your schoolwork. Keep it there. And then when it's time for school, just like you would normally do, go pick up your backpack and bring it to your learning spot. And so he got the backpack over the weekend. So Monday through today, he shows his backpack. And right now we're just using paper and pencil. And he's very dramatic about how he unzips it and brings everything out. And so I think that that's a good routine, that if kids like that, they like getting new backpacks and new pencils and binders. And, if the parents want to, let them and give them that suggestion that could be their desk.
I know that they're handing them out too soon. I think at Pioneer Village or Strambler Park, if it hasn't passed already, they're handing backpacks and supplies and things out. I'm going to use that for my own house because my kids have to learn in a common area. They can't stay in their rooms, but then I'm constantly telling them to come pick up all their stuff off the table. And so I think that that's what I'll do from now on. Just, they need to come to the table with a backpack, and they need to pack up and take it back to their room when they're done. Thank you. I'm going to take that one for my mom tool belt. Anybody else? Suggestions?
What's that?
So we have needs for the beginning of the school year, and then feedback and tips for teachers. We're getting close.
I know.
May I say something?
Oh, yes, please do.
Well, I put in the comment that like we should have a parent orientation training to teach the district-wide computer expectations that we like talked about throughout our weekly meetings, as far as what the parents need to do in order to make sure their home is like a learning environment for the kids. Because as all of us know, a lot of the parents, some of them don't have educational expertise like we may have, and they're trying their best. But if the district maybe has a flyer, has a Zoom meeting, does something to say, this is what we expect, do your best to expect it, and then trickle that down to the schools, then to the teachers and classrooms, so we can disseminate the information, everyone will have a united front. And then the parents will have more buy-in. That's all.
No, I think that's great. And, you know, I've heard of some other districts and just teachers too doing home visits before school actually starts, like virtual home visits where they just are scheduling almost like a conference, you know, and I'm not quite sure if BCSD has anything like that built in, but it would definitely be worthwhile to schedule maybe even, you know, in that, you know, throughout the day, just a 10-minute meeting with families.
Because I know that they want us to have their negotiating. I've heard from people with the unions and all that stuff. I don't really know the specifics per se, but that some teachers are concerned about meeting with parents. They want us to do the meet and greet, shaking the hands, pass out the stuff, etc. I don't know what's going on with that. Maybe you guys might have more information, but I think if we have the same message, I think that's key. It doesn't matter, you know, the same message. So if the board, if the people in the all can like say, okay, this is what the teachers are saying, this is what we expect the parents to have, and then have them sign something or whatever to protect everyone, from us to the, you know, kids, because we don't want parents to come and say, well, my kid's not getting the X and X education because of this. Well, if you're not helping support the teacher and the school, provide a safe place for your kid to learn, you can't blame the school for them not having access to the education we're providing. We can only do so much via the internet. And let me stop. Toodles.
No, I know there's a
I'll go on.
But I'm sure Deanna can speak to the specifics and some of those things a little bit better.
Mute myself.
Those are in negotiations, as you said, and we certainly want to make sure that it is a safe environment for everyone and that it's consistent with everybody. So I know that our FACE department is working with Tabitha and Rachel and C&I to put together already many, many videos that are going to be very consistent to go out to all parents about just what you're talking about. You know, everything from how you log on to Zoom to your the norms for teaching, for what the environment would look like in your home to do that. So that's why we want to hear from you all this, because we're putting together all of those. That will be like a menu of videos for parents, and that it's consistent across every school. So we definitely agree with that as well. And we're still working on what that's going to look like, either Zoom or in person, whichever is, of course, safe is always the way we want to be for everyone, at the same time being really communicative with all of our families. So it's going to be a learning, but we're getting there soon about what that's going to look like. Parents want to know. It was interesting because I had gone to the doctor, right? And the nurse was a Sierra parent, and she was on one of the town halls. And so she right away saw on my chart that I work for Bakersfield City. You know how you're like, oh no, I just wanted to go to the doctor and be done real quick. And I ended up forgetting why I even went to the doctor, and her and another nurse were in there with me, and they were talking about how they could set up their home for that learning environment. And one of them had even said she went to offer up and bought a desk on sale and put that into a corner, and how she set that up. And we went through and we were talking about what that looks like. And I left there just learning a lot about our parents and what the questions that they were asking and how they can do that. And I think someone shared with us earlier on in one of our meetings where a parent had gone out and got like a box and set it up and put it in there and put the computer on top of a box so the student would be able to sit up and be attentive during the learning and not laying down on a bed, and what that looks like. So it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It can be little things to set up a learning environment. So our parents want to know. They are willing to do whatever they can do to do that.
Well, and if you reach out to the parents you have now, I did a little Google form that I sent out to the parents, and I know that you guys had yours, but I wanted to know more detailed questions. And it was, on a scale of 1 to 5, how prepared do you think your child is, and what helped them, and what you would like to see more of, and things like that. And all of them are feeling way more prepared. They felt like the numbers that we were given, the Spanish speaker that they could call and give tech issues to, they liked that. They liked how quickly they could get someone on the phone. So although all of them said they started out a 1, these were all second graders, so they didn't have the Chromebooks that they could be practicing this whole time. All the parents that have replied, 9 out of my 11 have replied, are either 4s or 5s. So I think just giving them this amount of time and just all the numbers you guys gave us, that was really, really helpful. So if those numbers are still going to be accessible, like that would be great.
Good. And I know that I think that Tabitha probably could speak to this, but they're setting up something like that district-wide. So there will be like different people that you can call to access information quickly, and that we can do the same kind of a format on a bigger scale for all of the schools. Is that right, Tabitha? Yeah,
that's correct. We're still trying to figure out all of the details, but the general thought process is an IT line, maybe a face liaison type line, and then, obviously the direct school lines. But there's some other things we're working on as well.
Okay. Anything else before we end today? I think that's I don't know if we have anything else to share, or anything else that you guys would like to share, or just to...
I have one thing.
Go ahead.
In the chat. So as everyone's been sharing each week, I've been taking all those like doable, like the things like, for example, the show and tell at the end of the day, or the, what are those things called when you go find something and then you bring it back? Scavenger hunt. Yeah, so those are great ideas. So anything that's like really doable and easy for folks to implement, like I think Aveline said, like putting that slide up with the kids' materials they'll need for the day while the music's playing while she takes roll was very helpful. I put all those on that little document in the chat. So if you've got any teachers who are nervous, and I know someone said the big message is just try. If you want to send them this little tips from the field how-to sheet, this is just a visual representation of all of your guys' awesome input and learnings, and it's there if you want to share it. So it's in the chat. I put the link, and I know to put https:// because Aveline reminded us, and I added it to tips from the field. So it's there if you want to use it or share it. The end.
Awesome, thank you.
Awesome.
Well, I just want to thank you all. I feel like I've learned so much, and I know that everybody we're all at different sites and different departments and different grade levels, but our love for kids and what we're trying to do is all the same. And the more we can support each other and the more we can put out there and glean from each other, the better. So I just really have so much respect for you guys being the pioneers, and all of the sharing and all of the learning that our teachers are going to get from you. So much appreciation for all that you've done in the last 4 weeks.
Yes, thank you. I've learned so much from this experience as well. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you all. Just a reminder to fill out your last end of the year survey so we can get all of that back as well. And we'll put that data out so everyone can see that. But thank you so much. Tomorrow, enjoy. Love on your kids virtually in all those ways and let them know how proud you are of them and their parents too for being right there with them doing all of this. And we're really proud of all of you. And I hope that you get some time to have a little bit of rest and relaxation before starting up again. And just remember that we can do this together. We got this. We can do it. And we're excited about this year, even though it might be a little bit of a roller coaster. We're going to be right there, and we're going to be there for our kids. And most importantly, just to love on them and connect with them and care for them, because that's what they need right now. And again, to thank you to STEM Scopes for everything. We couldn't have done it without you. So yeah, all of you, thank you so much. Have a good day tomorrow. And if you need anything, please let us know. We're still here every day, so let us know if you need anything. All right, take care.